Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served Warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story.
They were pinned down from a Dishka, and the Dishka was coming from the third story of a 7-story apartment building. And then we blew that third story out within like maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes of getting that 9 line.
Hello to everybody blasting whippets in the parking lot. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, 1 phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here, and if you are not into a big long intro, I get it. I'll just encourage you to think about signing up at beautifulanonymous.com for extra bonus content every single week. And if you want to skip right to today's phone call, it's about 13 minutes that you're going to want to skip. 12, 13 minutes, you'll be right towards the tail end of the intro. Enjoy the call. Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here, and welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. And you're going to hear it in this call, but just to get this out of the way up top, if anybody knows Dave Matthews personally, we're going to need your help alerting him to this one. You will see why. Before we get into that, just some things I want to cover. First of all, I want to thank a listener who reached out and told me there were some concerning ads on the show of a political nature. And as soon as this listener heard them, reached out to me and was like, hey, this does not seem like your vibe at all, and said it was a bunch of stuff that was like anti-affirmative action. And I said, well, thank you for letting me know. So I wanted to just say, also, these are ads that not everyone gets based on what region they're in. They're spread out. So I wanted to explain a little bit about what's going on there, to let you all know that I'm on it, and to thank the person who gave me the heads up. So as you've heard, there's 2 types of ads on the show, right? There's the ones that I read, and those, obviously, I'm super well aware of what they are because I'm the one reading them out loud. And then there's the other side of ads, which are, I believe, called programmatic ads in the podcasting world. That's how they're referred to. And to you, the listener, they're the ones that sound like the things you would hear on the radio. And this has apparently been happening not just with my show, but with other shows where people are starting to sneak political messaging onto shows. So I want to let you know, first of all, I'm aware of it. Andrea was, as soon as we heard about it, right on top of making sure that we pipelined that information to the people who need to know about it to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And to also let you know that if you hear political stuff on the show, that's someone sneaking it on. Because here's how it works, is that those ads that I read, those are built and sent my way, and people put a lot of thought and care into them. The programmatic ones, it's a different pipeline, and the ability that I have as a host is to eliminate entire categories. So when we shifted from our old network to our new ad sales platform, when we went independent, I was able to look through all the categories for those types of ads and say, I won't do certain things. And I clicked off a bunch, many of them probably obvious to you, including political ads. So I have requested, don't sell the political ads on my show. But apparently what happens, especially during election years and divisive election years, is that some of the people uploading their ads are not marking them properly and sneaking them through. And I was really concerned when I heard about it, but I've also heard we're not the only show this is happening to right now. So it seems sort of like an industry-wide thing where everybody's figuring out how to tighten up and keep an eye on making sure that that doesn't happen. So I can't promise that it won't happen again. I can promise that I'm as concerned as you are, and that I'm flagging it, and that we have a really good, I really do trust the people that we work with now on our ads. As soon as we let them know, they were like, oh, cool. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah, that's unacceptable. We'll track down how this happened and make sure that the people responsible aren't on our platform anymore. So I know I'd love to say that I can just kick everybody off and it's a simple process if they pull nonsense, or that I'm able to go through with a fine-tooth comb beforehand to avoid it at all. But unfortunately, it's just not how the actual infrastructure is built. And I'm not thrilled that ads that are stressing people out are out there, let alone on a show where I think you all have been very well aware that politically, I'm always willing in the course of conversation to, if things get political, to make it clear what my politics are. But as far as who's allowed on this show, it's an open door policy. I still think back to 2016, and one of the episodes I'm most proud of is the Make Fruit Baskets Great Again episode with the person who's planning on voting for Trump. And I've long said that I think if people had heard that episode in political strategy circles, they would have realized what was coming a little bit more. And I know that things tend to lead towards my politics, but I really don't want the show to be overtly political. And when we do have shows that go political, I try to make sure that we always have room for discussion and sanity and counterpoints, and we avoid histrionics, and we avoid all of the clickbait that political media uses to get us upset and mad and stressed out. So you hear me. You hear where I'm at. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been signing up over at beautifulanonymous.com for our bonus content, Beautiful Anonymous Plus. We've had things have been moving again. It was really, really slowing down. We're up above 700 signups, 719 people. Nothing to sneeze at. Again, I mentioned it last week. I saw someone expressing online that they felt sad for me that there were so few signups. And again, I have a great life. I am blessed to do this show. No one needs to feel sad that we have and also remember, no one needs to feel bad about this guy. All right. But if you want to sign up, beautifulanonymous.com. And remember, if we get to 2,500 signups in our first year, I get a big bonus, which would be cool for my family. So thanks in advance for thinking about signing up at beautifulanonymous.com. Also, Andrea and I want to try an experiment. I don't know if it's going to turn into anything. If it does, I imagine that the people over at beautifulanonymous.com will get this for free or discount or something, depending on how it goes. But we have talked about, Andrea and I both came up going to punk rock shows, and one of the big things at punk rock shows, especially in the 90s, was fanzines, and these were homemade magazines. I had one that put out 3 issues. I had friends who had them, and it was, you'd kind of make your own magazine about the scene. And a lot of people think music when they think fanzines, but they actually started as sci-fi and comic book fanzines back in the day. We want to try our hand at Beautiful Anonymous, the fanzine, a homemade magazine capturing the spirit of Beautiful Anonymous. And I'm thinking the way to do this is to use the good old United States Postal Service, because at the core of Beautiful Anonymous is that we have embraced phone calls in a world that is moving on from phone calls, right? We live in a world of text messages now and emails and voice memos, and we're out here 8 years doing hour-long phone calls. Nobody has hour-long phone calls anymore. Well, we do, right? We're using that old-style technology and that old medium to make some great stuff, if I can pat myself on the back. Well, let's do it mail-wise. If you have something that you think should be published in Beautiful Anonymous, the magazine, and I think you know the rules, just send it in anonymously. And otherwise, I don't care. This could be you typing out a version of a story and sending it to me. I will tell you that if you send me something that's like 4 or 5 pages long, probably can't print something that long. Probably smart to keep it to 1 page if you actually want us to be able to publish it. But maybe you want to send artwork. Maybe you want to send photos with no explanation. Maybe you want to send any random thing and challenge me to somehow incorporate it into a magazine version of Beautiful Anonymous. Andrea and I have been joking about this idea for a while, and I think it's time to experiment and see what comes from it. So again, I have a P.O. box. I'm going to give you that address in a second. I will say it is a P.O. box far away from where I live. So if you're out here trying to get weird, don't. Okay? Respect my privacy and that of my family. but enjoy being able to mail random stuff to a P.O. box and seeing if I can find a way to incorporate it into a magazine. And again, it might be a thing that someday it's like we tried, but we were in over our heads, but thank you so much for the contributions, but we're not going to do anything with it. Or it might be like, yo, once or twice a year, we publish a magazine now because the world is cool and we expanded the idea. So anything you want to send, you can send it to P.O. Box 972, New Vernon, New Jersey, 07976. Put it under my name. The P.O. Box is registered under my name, not Beautiful Anonymous. So just to make sure things don't get turned back, send it to Chris Gethard, P.O. Box 972, New Vernon, New Jersey, 07976. Thank you so much. That one's going to be cool. That one's going to be cool. Thanks to everybody over at Beautiful Anonymous, the Facebook community. The discussions there continue to be quite lovely. And I have to say, the last week's episode with our mother woman artist really got a lot of love. People flipped out. And I thought it was a good one. I think they're all good ones, but sometimes they break out, and it's always hard for me to tell which ones are going to. I mean, we got comments from people thrilled we were talking about migraines. We got people who talked about how they have recently attended exhibitions on art and motherhood. A lot of people saying that the bonus content in particular in that one was very good. Marta, who's been posting in that group from pretty much since day one, suggested that maybe if we ever do another Cononymous, that the caller from way back in the episode, a spooky episode, maybe we could get them together for some sort of artist collaboration. It was very good discussion, and I thank everybody for having it. And of course, I also want to shout out, and I've never really blown up his spot. There's a guy who posts every single week named Andy, and I've started to think of it as the weekly Andy over there in that group. And he always just posts sort of very thoughtful, somewhat philosophical reactions to the episodes with very warm messages to the callers. And the weekly Andy is always a highlight of my week. So if you're a Beautiful Anonymous fan in the Facebook group, make sure you go check in with that. Now that I've covered all that, this week's episode, really good one. Also, I'm not trying to constantly blast you with the beautifulanonymous.com, sign up for the bonus content. But the bonus content on this one is great because you'll start to hear this call focuses largely on a topic that was brought up once on the show, not too long ago actually, but wasn't the focus of an episode. This caller talks about donating a kidney. And the story of how she came to decide to make the kidney is very funny on its own and unusual. And then we talk about the physical impact of that, the emotional impact of that, the way that medical information is guarded as part of that, and the good and bad of that being a donor, the way that it sets off some chain reactions that you don't see coming. It's a really fascinating call, and it focuses largely on one topic, but you'll start to hear there's some tangents along the way, especially towards the end, some very funny stuff. It starts to loosen up in a funny way, and then the bonus content over at beautifulanonymous.com really follows that. And you'll hear this is a caller that's just ready to dive into anything, see what happens, and it's lovely. There's a real push in this episode to find some altruism, find some volunteerism, find some way to connect to the humanity around you in a giving way. And the caller does a really, really great job of not trying to frame herself as some sort of hero, but also says, I bet there's something out there for you to find, to do, to help. And I think in this community in particular, that message really resonates. Anyway, I love this one. I think you will too. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy it.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How's it going with you?
It's good. I'm in Boise, Idaho. We have a live show tonight, and it's a rainy, cold day. So Andrea and I said, why not use this time stuck in this hotel, record an extra call? So the rare weekend caller right here.
That is awesome. I am not in Boise, Idaho, but it is also very cold and rainy where I am.
It's also cold and rainy back in my home state of New Jersey. It's rainy. It's cold and rainy everywhere is the sense I'm getting.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it's a perfect day to talk and kill some time.
Well, I am excited.
Yeah, me too.
I agree. So my fun fact that I always swore that I would immediately share with you is that we have the same birthday.
Hey, May 23rd.
And I would like to call out that so does my second favorite comedian after you, Tim Robinson. So it's like a perfect trifecta of May 23rd people.
I had no idea that me and Tim Robinson had the same birthday. Also, prior beautiful anonymous caller and somewhat of a legend, Parade Girl, same birthday.
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. A lot of good people born on May 23rd.
I think we're just all a little crazy. Do you know our gift is the gift of gab? So I think you and I are going to be just fine today.
I think so. We're Geminis who are right on the Taurus cusp, so we're stubborn Gemini.
Yes. Do you feel as though you are more of a Gemini or more of a Taurus?
I've got both in me, but my unpredictable, you never know if I'm going to be the life of the goddamn party or if I'm going to be standing in the corner like Boo Radley at the end of To Kill a Mockingbird. You never know with me.
I love talking to people with the same birthday because I relate to that statement so much. So much. And I truly believe, I don't actually believe in astrology, but I do feel like there are weird coincidences that come up and that people who have the same birthday may have similar personality traits. And I totally feel that way.
I love this. Well, we're very bonded, you and I. That means we're very bonded.
I'm very excited.
Indeed.
So yeah, that was my fun fact. Also, I am glad that I was able to bestow upon you the fact that we share our birthday with another awesome person. So very excited. So what I did share with your producer is that I was supposed to be on the show. I think it was like March 10th of 2020. So I had a voicemail and you guys called me and then the world shut down. So I'm excited to finally be on the show.
And we just never got back to you after that?
Yeah, I mean, like literally the world shut down that day. So I can totally understand why you didn't. But yeah, like we had an appointment, like you guys were going to call me at like 2:00 or whatever. And that was literally the Friday that like the world was just like, okay, we're done. So you guys obviously could not go into the studio. And I remember that like I was texting with the producer when I was at the grocery store going in to like get my final grocery shopping done before the world shut down. So I'm very happy to finally be chatting.
That's very rude of us to just not have gotten back in touch.
No.
And 4 years later, we're finally making it happen.
I don't think it's rude. I think we all had bigger priorities.
Sure.
I never took it that way.
That's why I left Earwolf, though, because they never called you back. That's why I left my prior network. I said, this is unacceptable.
Special.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
They said they wouldn't let me call you back. And they had no explanation why. They said, we don't want to get back in touch with that person. I said, then I'm going to torch the whole show, create a couple intensely stressful months for myself, and leave this damn network behind.
Oh, man, I'm just real special, aren't I?
Oh, indeed. Indeed.
Well, the thing that I wanted to tell you or talk about today is something that is just a really cool thing that I was able to do that I would love to share with the world because I think that more people should do this thing. But a few years ago, I donated my kidney to a total stranger. So there's some dude in his 50s walking around with my kidney.
Wow.
So I would love to share that experience.
Yeah, tell me how that comes to pass.
Yeah, and I think we may go down a few tangents. Tangents are my middle name, so I pre-apologize to everyone listening. We will eventually get back to the kidney story if we get off of it. So I sort of always knew that I was going to donate a kidney. I can't explain it. It was just a thing that from the time I was like 18 years old, thought was going to happen. Kind of forgot about it. And then, so this is where we're going to go on our first tangent. So I am involved in a community of people who follow the Dave Matthews Band around. And so this person had posted in a Facebook group, basically calling people out for saying things like, oh, I'd give a kidney for that. So there was like this poster, and she was like, I would give, like, hey guys, everyone who says they'd give a kidney for this poster, like, put your money where your mouth is. And I thought she was kind of spunky. And so I was like, well, I don't want your poster, but I have a kidney. So that was kind of the start and how everything transpired, was just this Facebook group through this community. I had never met this person. And so the cool part, and this is where, like, I think I can blow some minds, and I kind of blew my own mind when I learned about it, is if you don't match somebody and you want to give them your kidney, that is not the end of the story. So basically, I was able to sign up in what's called a paired donation program. And so when you do that, say we have 4 people in a room. So it's you and I, and then 2 other people, and I want to give my kidney to you, but I don't match. And then we have the other 2 people, and they want to, one wants to give to the other, but they don't match. We can then essentially swap. So I can give to the other person can give to you, and there we have a 4-way, we have a pair.
Right.
It goes so much deeper than that, in that we can actually keep going. So kidney donation is not as simple as we have the same blood type. That's, I would say, a common misconception. And blood type is a part of it, but there's a lot of other moving parts. And so for the person that I was trying to donate to, it would have been their second transplant. And so they had really high antibodies. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know much about that, but basically they were very hard to match. And they had a 1 in a million shot to find someone who could match their kidney. So I decided to move forward as a pair for them. So basically, it's kind of funny. They literally give like a coupon for a kidney. So if somebody donates in the registry for you, you like get what's called a kidney voucher. And that means that you go to the top of the living donation list with the registry. So super wild. And also, if you have any questions, you can totally interrupt me.
So the Dave Matthews Band, you're a fan of the Dave Matthews Band. You're on a discussion group on Facebook. People are making jokes about kidneys. Someone says, well, stop making those jokes. They're insensitive. Also, step up. I need a kidney. Next thing you know, you are signing up to just give a kidney away to someone else and help that person be in the game. But this all at the end of the day goes back to the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah, it all goes back to good old Dave, good old Davey boy. Yeah, so that's why I said, like, we could go on some tangents. I could tell you all about the interesting world of Dave Matthews Band fans, which they actually wrote a New York Times article about a few months ago, because it is really wild, actually. But yeah, so it all goes back to that. And so next thing I know, I'm on a plane. I am flying a couple thousand miles away from where I live to do the testing to be a kidney donor. This is the part that, like, is really crazy. So it is not as simple as ABC. And so you have to do, at least for me, I donated through one of the most recognized centers in the country. And I had to do 2 full days of medical testing. Everything from like a true stress test where you're running on a treadmill, every blood test under the sun, psychological testing. It's 2 days in the hospital where you're carrying around a jug of pee. Your own? You got to pee in a cup for 24 hours. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I had to carry this jug in the hospital. I'm carrying around this bright orange jug of pee and going from room to room. You're losing, you no longer have pride at this point. So they took an insane amount of blood. I want to say, I may be exaggerating, but I don't think I am. 48 tubes of blood throughout the day. And you're carrying your jug of pee around. The second day, you have the 24-hour blood pressure monitor, so you're dealing with that. And I will never forget, so I had a migraine, and I get migraines, and so that day I just wasn't feeling great to begin with. And I go in, I'm getting my blood work, and to boot, the guy taking my blood had no personality, which okay, fine. But if you're going to be literally taking my blood for like 10 straight minutes. Like, I would like to converse. Um, so, so then you have to drink, they call it like the pregnancy drink, but it's glucose test. And it's pure sugar. So I have a migraine. I'm sitting there. I've now chugged this pure sugar drink. And I am not a person to brag or humble brag or be like, oh, I'm such a good person. However, as I'm sitting there with a migraine, having just had 48 tubes of blood taken and feeling like I'm going to die from drinking 7 pounds of sugar, I'm just thinking to myself, man, I'm a fucking great person. Like, so testing is hard. But it was really cool. You know, I think getting through the testing, and getting that like call that like, hey, we've approved you is such like a special moment. So yeah, so I went through all this testing, came home, and like I said, I didn't know who my kidney was going to because I have agreed to do this care. And so that was in March. So this is 2019. Some time has passed. That was in March, and I think I got a call at the beginning of July, and they said, hey, we have found someone for you to give your kidney to. And it's called a miracle match. That means that this person has 99% antibodies. They have like a 1 in a million shot of getting a kidney. And I matched them. So super excited, started planning. And then I got a call. So they do one final blood match. And I got a call, hey, you're no longer a match. So emotional roller coaster, went from thinking I'm going to save this person's life to hearing, hey, no, you're not. So that was really disappointing. I had a lot of empathy for that person. I went through a lot of emotions that that person had been told they're getting a kidney to be told that they're not. It was kind of a bummer.
I want to ask, so you felt it was a bummer almost empathetically on their behalf, because at the end of the day, you know, at some point, if you're willing to be a living donor, it's going to happen. But you did feel a connection with this stranger, this idea that it was going to happen when it then didn't happen. You did feel bummed out on their behalf, or you also felt bummed, like, man, see, because I'm like, man,
yeah,
I'd also be so scared of going through the process and having an organ removed. So to hear that you were like, oh no, like you were bummed that it wasn't happening, it's really remarkable to me.
Oh, I was so sad for them. Like, I just can't imagine, like, for me as a donor to feel like, you know, to get hyped up and be like, oh, this is happening. And for it not to happen was disappointing, right? But it didn't go beyond that for me, right? Because it was like, oh, okay, well, to your point, it's still going to happen. But to know that someone who has a 1 in a million shot of getting a kidney has been told they're getting a kidney, to hear that they're not, like, I was in tears. Like, I was just so sad for them. Like, I just can't imagine how that must feel to ultimately be given this gift, right? Be told, like, hey, like, this is going to happen. And to just have it taken away, like, it's so sad. I can't.
And this is a stranger. You're not given,
feel like.
You're not given their name or a dossier of info on them. This is just a theoretical person.
Nothing.
And you know they got good news, and now they're actually getting bad news.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is I was also in like a kidney donation group on Facebook, and that happens more than you think. Because I guess like there really can be like a failure in the final cross match at any point. And again, not a medical professional to those listening. I don't understand all of the ins and outs. But yeah, like apparently it's actually really common. And so it's not funny, but I'll get to the point where I actually donate. But I had met a girl in the same group, and she donated the same day that I did. And she had the exact same story. Like, she answered an ad. She got a surgery scheduled. She got a surgery canceled for the same reason. And then we ended up donating on the same day. So just really interesting, you know, the connections too that I was able to make through this. So yeah, so basically get that call, and then I get another call maybe like 2 weeks later where they say, okay, we've matched you again. I have O positive blood. O obviously being the universal donor. So I could give a kidney to someone essentially with any blood type. And so they want O kidneys. And so it's pretty easy when you have an O kidney to find someone to give it to. Ironically, people, from what I've learned, people who have O blood who are on a kidney donation list kind of can get the short end of the stick because the O kidneys often will go to people with other blood types. So that's really interesting.
Because you are a universal match, they can go anywhere, but people who share that blood type, they often don't get prioritized. They have to share all those kidneys with the people with the other types of blood. The other people with the other types of blood don't have to share the other kidneys with the O people. They're very sought after for that specific type.
Absolutely, you are correct.
Wow, who knew there was such a swirling world of drama within?
There is so much drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so then I get a call, and I get a date for a new donation, and I find out that the kidney is actually, so I am flying again around 1,000 to 1,500 miles. I don't really quite remember how far. But my kidney got flown back 60 miles from my doorstep. So that was really interesting. So when you do the pair, or when you do something through the National Kidney Registry, basically you can only donate with the center that you signed up for. So because I had signed up through a particular donation center for this person for her voucher, I had to donate at that center. So even though my recipient, the person who was ultimately getting my kidney, was 60 miles away from me, and we could have essentially just taken my kidney, same room, put it into this person, it went on a helicopter as though it were from a deceased person. So it's really interesting because from what I understand, the longevity of a kidney essentially that goes on ice is shorter than that of one that is just sort of put in, with no time lapse. So yeah, that was really interesting for me to learn, and like a little disheartening, because I think if I could have donated at the center closer to my house, it would have been, the kidney I think may have lasted longer. It can last for years and years either way, but it would have been probably better if I was able to actually donate to this person directly. But it just adds to the complexity of how the system works, right? So literally flying 1,000 miles for them to just fly my kidney home. So that was another sort of like wild journey.
This is nuts.
Yeah. So, and this is why I wanted to share the story, because it's so much more complex than I think people realize.
Let's go ahead and let's take a little break, because that's an intriguing cliffhanger if I've ever heard one. I'm going to do some ads. Thanks so much in advance for listening and using the promo codes. It really helps when you do. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody, specifically grown-ups. I wanted to tell you about the Cat in the Hat cast, which is a new podcast from our friends at Wondery. Wondery has been very supportive of Beautiful Anonymous, and I love that we get to tell you about so many of their shows. This show, by the way, is perfect for the whole family, and I know there's a lot of parents who listen. You're going to want to join the Cat in the Hat and your favorite Dr. Seuss characters as they get whisked away on a new adventure every week. Fish dreams of creating his very own polite and quiet podcast. That is until he gets a surprise visit to his Fishbowl podcast studio from the Cat in the Hat himself, and it becomes quite clear that the cat has other plans for the podcast. Those plans are not quiet. The cat may be disruptive, but it turns out he's also a great help. He gets fish out of all kinds of predicaments. This podcast bursts with music, silliness, rhymes, things that are going to entertain you while also entertaining the kids. The Cat in the Hat cast encourages us all to find fun that is funny in every single episode. You can sing along to songs, try your luck at Titanic tongue twisters, have some fun with wondrous wordplay, and most importantly, bring your family along for all of the adventures in the Cat in the Hat cast. Follow the Cat in the Hat cast on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to the Cat in the Hat cast ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or Wondery Kids Plus in Apple Podcasts. Thanks to all the advertisers that help us bring you Beautiful Anonymous. Now, let's get back to the phone call. This is nuts.
Yeah. So, And this is why, like, I wanted to share the story, because it's so much more complex than I think people realize.
Now, the actual process of removing the kidney, effectively, I would imagine there's a bunch of prep, and then you go under anesthesia, you wake up, you got a big scar, and you heal up, and I'm sure there's a lot of recovery time, but ultimately you have another functioning kidney, and then how long is it until you're just kind of back up and running?
Yeah. So not a misconception, but it is the 2020s. So no big scar. Luckily, it's all laparoscopic. For the most part, it's laparoscopic. My surgery was laparoscopic. So I actually have like 3 little tiny scars and then 1 scar that's just about 3 inches. So it's really, really crazy. They take your kidney out of this little 3-inch hole. So yeah, we flew to the hospital. My mom was with me, and you kind of go in the morning, and I think my surgery was around 5. I think I was like awake and alert by 10. So kind of crazy. And then the recovery, I would say it took me a solid 7 weeks to feel good. That really does vary. I know the girl who donated the same day as me, she went back to work after a week, which is mind-blowing to me because I could not even stand up straight for about 4 weeks. But, it's really all relative. But another thing that's really interesting, that I found really interesting about kidney donation is that most donors are actually in their 50s. So for me to donate at, I think I was 30 at the time, is actually pretty rare. So that's another thing that people actually usually don't do this until a little bit later in life. But there doesn't seem to be a correlation between age and recovery time either. It's just all in how your body processes it.
Now, what happens if down the line you develop some sort of kidney disease or there's a problem with your remaining kidney? Are you given favored status if you should ever need a donation down the line?
Yeah, from what I understand, you sort of are put in this like category of like top of the list, because you have given it and you have done they literally call it an altruistic donation when you give to a stranger. So there is a program where I believe if I got to a point where I needed a kidney, it would be preferential. Yeah, it is so wild. Truly, it's wild. So the part that I haven't gotten to tell you yet is that, remember at the beginning when I told you, okay, we can do a pair and it's just a swap 1-to-1. Mm-hmm. Well, because I wasn't waiting, so there are kind of 2 ways that you can go about this. A lot of times when people do these pair donations, they're doing it for loved ones. They're doing it for people that are very important to them. And sometimes they want to make sure that the person that they're, it's called their intended recipient, they want to make sure that their intended recipient is getting a kidney before they donate. In my case, I had made a decision that no matter what, I was giving a kidney, period, end of story. So I was able to do something. So basically, I was able to set off a chain. So because it didn't have to be an even number, I was able to come in where they were kind of waiting for a match and just go in and give that match. So I set off a chain of 9. So the thing that's wild to me is I actually got to save 10 lives because I was able to set off this chain reaction. So that, for me, is like the coolest part of all of it.
Oh.
It's such a trickle effect.
Does Dave Matthews know this story, to your knowledge?
I hope so. I don't know. Some people who have real connections to the band have told me that yes, he does know. I have no idea. I hope that he does. But hey, I don't know. He's a good guy. He inspires people to do good things. That's how I look at Dave. If you listen to his music, half of it is about doing good things and going out in the world and spreading love and doing what you can to help.
Listen, I'm going to put a public plea out here. Show has a lot of listeners. If there's anybody with connections to Dave Matthews in any way, to hear that you just
They're going to
straight
know
up
who
were
I am, but that's okay.
but to hear that you were in a Dave Matthews Facebook group and somebody was like, I basically, honestly, was like, well, I dare you to actually donate a kidney. And you were like, okay. Like, it really is as simple as that. That someone in a Dave Matthews Facebook group was like, well, then do it for real. And you were like, okay, I guess I will. And then that set up a whole structure where 10 different people got kidneys because you like to follow around Dave Matthews and probably blast whippets in the parking lot. That's amazing.
To be clear, just for fun, not blasting whippets in the parking lot. I'm totally sober, but someone's blasting whippets in the parking lot.
You've at least been with someone who's blasted whippets in the parking lot.
Definitely.
Do you like to go out and listen to music on a big lawn wearing Birkenstocks?
You
and
got
now
me.
10 people are 10 lives are saved, or at the very least,
yeah.
Or at the very least, 10 people under extreme duress got that duress solved quicker because you like Dave Matthews.
That is true. But I do want to give a shout out to the person, who needed the kidney, who was brave enough to call people out on their bullshit, right? Because if she hadn't done that, I would have never seen it, right? This would have never happened. I mean, I think I believe in my soul that I was going to do this no matter what, right? So if it wasn't her, it was going to be someone who had a sticker on their car for me. But yeah, but big shout out to her. And so part of the thing that's even crazier, right? Because there's so many things that are just not known. So it's like I said, she got a coupon, right, for a kidney. She's still waiting. So just because someone donates for you does not mean you get a kidney. So that's also an interesting part of the story, is that because she has so many antibodies and because she is so hard to match, even 4 years at the top of the living donation list have not come through for her. And I have ultimate empathy for her. But
so this is why we got to make sure Dave Matthews knows as well, because I'm not going to claim that I'm not, I have nothing against Dave Matthews. I feel like there's a thing in the punk rock world where people make fun of Dave Matthews. That's a juvenile.
That's okay.
It's a juvenile thing. Let people enjoy the things they enjoy, right? Like, never make someone apologize for the things they love. But I will say this. We got to make sure Dave Matthews hears about this, because I have a feeling he's going to love this story. And hearing that you attempted to help a fellow fan of his, and it has led to, at this time, already 10 different people receiving kidneys, but not that original fan, we got to close that loop. And Dave Matthews needs to let the rest of the fan base know this story, because if everybody started getting tested for this one person, it would severely increase the chance of a match, yeah?
That is true, yeah.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, Dave.
Yeah, and so yeah, Dave. So, for me, when I tell people this story, because I am not one, like I've shared it and I've shared it freely, but it's not because I think I'm a good person. It's not because I want accolades or I want anyone to think of me in a certain light. It's truly because I want people to know that it's not hard to do good. And in my case, I was able to do a lot of good and what I consider to be very easy. But, it's so easy to just be a good person and to do small things for people. And the small things can lead to big things. So for me, the reason I tell people is because, I want them to know, like, donating a kidney is not that hard. So I'm not saying everyone should go out and donate a kidney, but if you have any sort of inkling toward doing it, I really recommend looking into it. And I know there are a lot of people who sort of have the thought in the back of their head, like, I could do that. Like, I want you to know you can do that. And so that's really why I share the story, is to say, there's that saying that it costs nothing to be a good person, right? And for me, I was able to do this big thing, but even if it just inspires someone to open a door for somebody, I hope that it does that, because it is truly a gift to be able to do that. And it was such a gift to me to be able to do this. And like I said, I don't know who has my kidney. And we can get into that because I have mixed feelings about that, actually. But it's so easy to just do good. And the more people know that there are opportunities to do that, I just think it's better, right? And so, I really want to be careful as we tell this story for people to understand that I'm not telling the story to say, oh, I'm so great or whatever. I'm telling the story to say, you can do this, and if you can't do this, you can do something else, right? And so I just want to be careful to not take it as like, oh, I'm so wonderful and I'm so amazing, I did this good thing. No, I'm a human and I wasn't able to do this good thing, and I'm grateful that I wasn't able to do this good thing. But yeah, it did all stem from the Dave Matthews Band. So it is definitely an interesting story.
I'm with you, and I want to assure you, I love the fact that you're framing it not as a pat on your own back, but as pointing out your pride as a call to action for others, because I'm with you, and especially in an era where we are constantly inundated with news of how hopeless things are. Politically, I think we all often feel handcuffed. You hear about conflict, you hear about genocide, you hear about the oceans being full of plastic, you hear about temperatures rising, you hear about so many things where it feels like, well, there's nothing I can do. And what I love about what you just put out there is that there is something you can do. And who knows? In your case, it was donate a kidney. In my case, I know I volunteer and I drive an ambulance in my town on Tuesday nights. And is that going to pull all of the plastic out of the ocean? No, but does it make me feel like I'm doing something on a very basic peer-to-peer level to help neighbors in need? Yeah. And like you, I'm not saying it because I need to be congratulated or told that I'm a good person, but I can say that in my experience and in my opinion, if you're somebody who sits there and finds yourself clicking refresh on Twitter over and over again because you're caught in a loop of just consuming more news and the news is stressing you out, or you're somebody who feels like you go to bed at night and you can't fall asleep because you're thinking about all the problems of the world that you've been reading about, one of the best things you can do for your own mental health is help others. I know there was a stretch when probably around 2008, 2009, I had been with my current therapist. I've been with Barb for 16 years at this point. 17 years, which is crazy. But we were a few years in, and I told her, I was like, I'm thinking I just need to find a thing to do. Like, I'm thinking I want to go sign up for Habitat for Humanity or something and build houses, but I'm not good at that. And she was like, oh, this is how I know that you're starting to turn the corner. And I went, what do you mean? And she went, very often people who suffer from mental health issues, when they start to have them back under control, their instinct is to find ways to help others. I found that really fascinating. And I think people would be shocked, like how, and in your case, I mean, you underwent a surgery. That's a very real thing. That's a traumatic thing. That's weeks of recovery. But it is a thing that allows you to take a deep breath and go, I've done something. I've done something. And those things are all around us. And I love that you put it out there as a call to action, not as a pat on the back, not as self-congratulation, but as a like, hey, it felt really good to do this. Turned out I was somebody who medically was able to. And the fact that I did, I get to feel good about. And I did something. There's a version of that out there literally for everyone hearing this right now. And I don't think that's pretentious to say. And I don't think it means either of us is climbing up on a soapbox. It's just the truth. There's a thing you could do that will help someone else, and it will give you a dopamine kick that's slightly different than the ones you get elsewhere. And I love that you put it out there like that.
Absolutely. Like, and that's the thing. It's so simple, right? Like, I feel as though literally opening a door for someone could just make their day, right? Like, you never know what someone is going through, and just living with a little bit of kindness, can really make a difference in these, I hate to say troubled times, but we're in some really troubled times right now.
Yep. And people love to remind us.
So it's, right. And when there's so much negativity, I think being able to do that is again, just such a gift. And, and I think for us too, and especially for people who struggle with mental health or anxiety, you notice when people do it for you, right? Like, you remember if someone was nice to you. You remember if someone smiled at you on the street, even, right? It's even as simple as that. When we live in a place, I will say I am from a similar part of the world as you, and so we all know that people in New York and New Jersey and New England, they are
Jerks.
a little bit stern
They're
sometimes,
jerks.
right? We kind of have that resting bitch face.
Yeah. They're kind but not nice. That's the phrase, right?
Yeah. And it's rare to like walk on the bike path and see someone smile at you, right? And I think you go places like the Pacific Northwest and everyone's smiling and happy, and it's like, oh, but like here, like if someone smiles at you, you either think it's weird or you think it's endearing. And so I try to think it's endearing. But it really comes down to the simplest acts that we can do as human beings to just not be mean and not be hateful, But that's why this experience was so special to me personally. And, so something for me is that gives me a little bit of a challenge is that I don't know who has my kidney, and it does hurt in a way, So another thing is, if you donate your kidney to a stranger, in the United States, it's actually very different in other countries, but if you donate your kidney to a stranger in the United States, they have a choice to get in touch with you. And I will say the centers do not make it easy. It is like old school snail mail, like telephone game. Like you have to send a letter to your coordinator at your center, who then needs to mail the letter to the coordinator at the other center, who then needs to mail the letter to you. It is not easy. But in my case, they never reached out. And I did attempt to reach out via their coordinator. So it puts you in a unique place as a donor, because I did it altruistically. I did it out of the kindness of my heart. I would never, ever take it back. Like for me, it's a thing that I was always meant to do. And I'm so glad that I did it. And, at least through the first 2 years, I knew that person was doing well. I did at least get that much information. I knew that they were thriving. But there is that part of you that's like, what the fuck, man? Like, saved your life, and that's the part that, like, I'll be honest about. I've struggled with to say, yes, I did it, not for accolades, not for whatever, but there is the part of me that is like, well, why don't you want to know who I am, right? Like, why don't you have an interest in that? So that's the part that's a little interesting, because you have no control over that situation at all. So I did want to call that out to say, like, that is sort of maybe one of the down or the darker sides of it, is like, you do struggle because you have given this ultimate gift, and sometimes it's hard to feel unseen in that, even if other people think you're great or whatever. It is a challenge sometimes to wonder why that person didn't want to get in touch. And I try to be objective and say, hey, like, they have their reasons, and be totally okay with it, right? And just be like, okay, this is all good. Like, I did it. I would never take it back. And I've never needed an organ, right? So I don't know what that's like, but those emotions are what that must feel like to get something like that from someone. And I try to be really objective in that, but that has been a part that I've struggled with a little bit. More like in the first year or so, when it's fresh, now that it's been 4 years, I'm kind of like, well, whatever. If they were going to get in touch, they would have rather. But yeah, so that is one area I'd say that is a little bit challenging as somebody who donated completely anonymously to a stranger.
Well, I have 2 questions about this. 2 questions. The first is a little silly, but I bet you've thought about it,
I love silly questions.
Well, you mentioned that you're only 60 miles away from this person. You know that much. Or that at the very least, the center where they received the kidney. So they live in the same area. Have you ever thought about the fact that, like, you could potentially someday be in a Starbucks and maybe the person in line would be that person? And have you ever fantasized and wondered if you would somehow sense that it was them?
Oh my gosh, literally all the time, right? Like when I originally donated, I was like, oh, like that's the reason, right? Like the universe, the greater universe has flown my kidney back up here. And this
It's the
person is
beginning
going
of a
to find me
rom-com.
someday.
It's someday somebody's going to ask you out, and you're going to find out that they have your kidney, and then you're all going to have to ponder the ethical.
I'm laughing so hard.
Are you allowed
I
to
had a
sleep with
boss.
someone who has one of their organs inside you? Is this a thing we have to think about?
Oh my gosh! So I had a boss who was convinced of that, like truly convinced of that. He was like, this is why this has happened, and you're gonna meet this person, you're gonna marry this person. Not to mention that I have a long-term partner of 15 years. Nobody cares about that in this rom-com fantasy, right? But people have brought that up to me and said that, and it's so funny. I mean, to me, it's more like I hope that would happen, and I truly and I do sort of tell strangers for that reason. Like, if I'm sitting at a bar, like I don't drink, but I love to sit at bars because I like to people watch, and I'm a little bit of an introvert, so I do like to sit and just observe the world around me. And so I'm always like, oh, if I just casually mention to this person, like maybe they'll say that they're that person or they know that person or whatever. So guilty. Yes, totally guilty on that. Not a silly question. I do think probably anyone would have that experience as well, because it feels fortuitous, right? That it would get flown back to somewhere very close to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's the second question?
Let's pause there, because I bet you're all wondering, what's the second question? We will get to that second question momentarily, but first we've got some advertisers. It's why the show exists. Listen to the ads, check them out, use the promo codes. We'll be right back.
Hiring is a lonely business. Posting jobs, sifting through resumes, interviews with unqualified applicants, being ghosted. What if you could link with dozens of qualified candidates who are ready to work right now with just one connection? We're Express Employment Professionals, your full-service workforce solution. Every day, Express recruits qualified candidates in your area. So when it's time to hire, they have the talent you need ready to go to work. With more than 40 years in the staffing business and more than 860 locally owned and operated offices, Express helps thousands of companies find great people each year. And they can help you, too. Don't go it alone. Go to expresspros.com. One connection, great candidates, problem solved. expresspros.com, the workforce you need when you need them. That's Express Employment Professionals. Find us at expresspros.com.
Thanks again to all of our advertisers. Now, let's go ahead and finish off the phone call.
What's the second question?
Well, the second question is, it sounds very, very similar. My understanding, again, these are both very complex worlds that I only have a cursory knowledge of, but it almost sounds like a system that mirrors a little bit of how a lot of adoption agencies handle reconnecting kids and birth parents. The one, you have to reach out through a third party, and then they feel out if everyone wants that connection to happen. Is there a justification or reasoning why? Because you would think that in most cases, a person who receives a kidney would want to write a letter or shake that person's hand or give them a hug. But I have to imagine that this system is put in place for a reason. And I wonder if you know what those reasons are.
I think there's a lot of complexity, right? I think at the end of the day, these centers are trying to keep the anonymity of both the recipient and the donor. Because I do know there are some donors who don't want to be found out, right? They're like, I just want to do this thing and throw it into the world, and they don't care. And props to them, because I'm not that person. But, the other thing too, what I've heard, right? Again, I've never needed an organ, but from what I've heard, there is an element of guilt, right? And there is an element of maybe what if the kidney fails and I've then reached out to this person? Now I feel bad, right? Because they've given me this organ and it didn't work. And so from what I've heard, those are some of the reasons that someone wouldn't. The other thing is too, through the registry that I donated with, what I've heard in being part of a kidney donor support group, which I've since left, or like a Facebook one, which I've since left because it just was too much drama for me, to be honest. But I've heard that sometimes in this case, like if someone donates for their mom, so say they're doing a pair because their mom needs a kidney, they can get them a better match by doing the registry. Sometimes the mom is like, oh, well, my daughter donated the kidney to me. Even though technically they have someone else's, they really acknowledge the person who did it for them. So that could also be what's at play here. You know, my therapist threw out that maybe they're just a terrible person who supports Trump, and maybe I don't want to know. But, you know, that was her way of comforting me during my first year anniversary. And she was like, maybe you just don't want to know. Maybe he's awful. Like, that's a terrible thing to say.
It does. I mean, you do
because
sometimes.
I would have saved him either way, you know?
It's funny because I would say that the Trump thing is a very funny way to phrase it. It does, I will say again, volunteerism, self-sacrifice does bring people together. In, again, your example, the kidney, of like, oh, maybe I did save the life of a Trump. And you sit there and you go, you're right, because those things ultimately should not divide us as humanity. And same way, I drive on the ambulance squad with some hardcore. So. My ambulance squad has a couple of hardcore, one in particular, hardcore Trump supporter who we are very civil with each other. And we've never discussed politics, but she's just like, oh, you're an artist who used to live in Brooklyn and do weird stuff. Like, yeah, we don't, but it doesn't change the fact that if someone in town needs help and we get on the ambulance together, we do the job, and we have a reason to remember that we both ultimately have good hearts. But do you ever sit there and fantasize and go, what if I gave a kidney to somebody and then they go on like, you know, they like become a serial killer? Do you ever have to think about that?
I try not to, right? Like, to me, I would have saved someone who needed it anyway, right? Like, for me, I don't think that ever came into play. So I try not to think about it, honestly.
Like, what if you helped lead to 10 kidney donations, but then the person who got yours kills 11 people? How would you feel about it? I don't like the theoretical. Let's move on. We'll just move on. This was a weird track for me to go down. Apologies to everyone.
Funny.
Apologies.
I enjoy dark humor. I'm gonna say it's a May 23rd connection, right? Like, but yeah, I have not quite thought of it in that detail.
But nor should you ever have to again.
For the world, but like, if anyone listening, you know, like they or their loved one received a kidney through the registry, like, you know that your donor might want to know and might have feelings, and if you do feel so inclined, you know, to reach out. And I think there's even a part of me that like fantasizes that like this will lead to something, right? Like, oh, well, maybe they'll finally get in touch. Like, maybe they're great and they just forgot. Like, I don't know. Like, because I try to see the best in people and expect the best in people, which gets me in trouble a lot because I have learned hard lessons that people do not have the same heart that I do. But I do still try to be like the eternal optimist and believe that there is good in the world and that everything is sunshine and rainbows, even though it is clearly not. So just putting feelers out there, guys. But you know, it is a hard thing to do and to live for years not knowing where your organ is. Yeah. So just putting all my feelers out into the universe today.
I think the big one, again, to reiterate, Dave Matthews, you got to hear about this story. You got to be inspired by it. We got to get a kidney to that one fan of yours, because the chain reaction has started. And really the only person who can pour more fuel on that fire, Dave Matthews. I can only do so much via this podcast, but Dave Matthews this story could really spread. But we need you, Dave. We need you, Dave.
But like, you know, and I think another thing for people to know, you know, is, again, if you're thinking about it, like, it's a cool thing to do. Like, it is pretty, like, it's a really cool story to tell. Like, if you are a storyteller and you like to share, right? Like, hey, my kidney's in a stranger gets some questions. One of my favorite things that you would never know was a thing that you could ask for. Is that you can ask the doctor to take a picture of your kidney. So I have a real live photo of my kidney outside of my body, which is really freaking wild.
No.
And I love to just like be like, you know, at a party and be like, want to see my kidney? I
Do you
do
have it on
ask
your
first.
phone?
I don't just like gross people out. Hell yeah, I do.
You just have a picture of a loose kidney on your phone and you show it to people at parties?
I mean, if they ask for it, I'm not just like whipping it out.
Is it all bloody
it's a
and
party
messed up?
trick, though. No, it's beautiful. It's all pretty and like cleaned up and in a bowl of ice. And it's like light pink. Like I feel like I always assumed that a kidney like kind of looked like a kidney bean and it was like dark. It is very pretty. Like the colors are so vibrant. Like the arteries and I don't know. It doesn't gross me out, but it might gross someone out.
What do people say when you're like, check this out? And next thing they know, they're looking at a bowl of ice with some meat in
You're
it.
like, oh my God, that is so cool. People think it's the coolest thing they've ever seen.
Wow.
I'm very proud of it. I would frame it if it wasn't super weird.
You gotta print it out and frame it.
So when I donated my kidney, I was still working in an office and going into the office, and there was this team that had like this like wall of kudos and wall of fame, and I wasn't really a part of their clique, but someone did put me up there for donating my kidney, and I then printed the kidney and folded it so it wasn't just out, but I put it on the wall and said like, open if you dare, and people enjoyed coming by and looking at it. It was just hanging on the wall of the office, you know, folded up, but it was hanging on the wall of the office because it's so cool. There's So I've made some really great friends throughout this as well, other fellow kidney donors, and two girls in particular that I've actually gotten to meet and hang out with. And one of them, they forgot to take her picture. She asked, so she shows people pictures of my kidney and tells them it's hers. So I also get like a real super kick out of that.
There's someone out there misrepresenting your kidney as their kidney.
Listen, I've allowed it. I've given her permission to tell people that
No,
it's her
I
kidney.
get it, but this is just a world that I didn't anticipate knowing about.
So there are other cool parts too. Like, okay, mind blown time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You can donate your kidney and half your liver, and like you can do both of those things. Like, it's not like one or the other. Like there are centers that will, after you've donated the kidney and waited a year, they'll also let you donate half your liver.
Did you do that too?
Which is just so wild to me. I'd love to. Like I said, I believe in the universe a little bit. So right at my 1 year mark, I got tested to donate my liver, which apparently like you literally go crazy because like the bile backs up, but you actually like have like, I've heard, I cannot attest to this, like you can have like a little bit of like a psychotic break, which I'm not really interested in having. But
wait, when you donate your liver, you have a psychotic break? What?
You can, apparently, because the bile like backs up and like you can go like temporarily psychotic, but like you're hospitalized. So it's fine.
I gotta say, you're not selling the sizzle on this one as much as you did the whole kidney thing.
Listen, that's what I've heard. I have no clue if it's true, so please don't come at me, people. I've just heard that the bile backup can make you crazy, which is actually really
I just love that you're like, everyone should donate a kidney. I'm not saying I'm a hero, but you get to feel like you did some good in the world. It sets off a whole chain reaction where 10 lives get saved. Now, the liver, you will have a psychotic break, but you should do that too.
Not so you will. I said I heard.
You will wind up roving through the streets, foaming at the mouth like a mad person in the middle of the night. But still a good thing to do.
Then I'm gonna have haters on the comments like, you are misinformed, lady. Like, you know, I'm laughing so hard I can't even like get my thoughts out. I think that's a side effect that like it goes away.
Oh, a side effect, psychosis.
That can happen.
A psychotic break as a side effect.
I would like someone in the comments to confirm or deny this, please.
It's a hell of a side effect. That's like a heart attack or a.
Okay, but so also donating your liver kidney has like a 6 to 10 week recovery. Donating your liver has like a 6 to 10 month recovery. So you're literally cutting off half of your liver.
And you have to climb back into reality step by step and get your brain back. After the psychotic break. After the psychotic break.
Anyway, so I looked into donating my liver about a year after my donation, and I got denied for like a really silly reason, which was that I have a single genetic marker that means I could get a blood clot at some point in my life, which they didn't test for when I got my kidney done, but the center that does both kidney and liver, they're a little bit more strict on their guidelines. And so they automatically disqualified me, even though I've never had a blood clot. I've had multiple major surgeries, and they were like, nope, absolutely not. So my thought is I may still do it at some point in my life, but I felt as though the door kind of slammed on that. And I was like, if the door is slamming on a thing that can severely affect your health and also make you have maybe a psychotic break, maybe you should wait. So I'm waiting it out and seeing what happens. And if someday the opportunity comes for me to donate half my liver, I will absolutely do it. You know, to the chagrin of my friends and family who are like, please, for the love of God, stop giving your organs away. But, you know, I mean, it's cool. It's a super fun story, and I'll do anything for a good story, I guess. No, just kidding, guys. I really did it out of the kindness of my heart, but I love the story, but I can tell from it. So imagine being like, I donated my liver and my kidneys. Like, and there are people who have done that who like deserve all of the kudos in the world for going through that. And there are multiple people in the United States who have actually gone through with that. So props to them, because, you know, apparently they might have had a psychotic break.
I tell you, I have a condition that I have an increased chance of kidney disease when I get older. So I've just always assumed it's not safe for me to donate. But I did do the thing on my license where they can take whatever they want when I die. Like if I die, they're welcome to take all the organs they want. Give my eyes to somebody, whatever you want.
That's awesome. That's what I was going to say. So like, I always think it's so cool that like people donate eyes and skin, which is like kind of gross, but like,
take my skin.
It's
Who cares?
incredible.
Somebody will just be mad they have so many freckles, but take my skin. It's fine.
Right?
Yeah. If you don't
I'm
want
also
freckles, you
freckled.
can
I
have
feel
those.
that.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I got a new tattoo yesterday, and and one of the questions was like, do you have freckles? What does that matter? Like, yes, I have freckles. Look at me. Like, I just thought that was a strange question. I have like 25 tattoos. I've never before been asked if I have freckles, which are very visible to the naked eye.
What was the tattoo you got yesterday?
So I will say my name translates into a literal German word, my last name, and so it is the translation of my last name.
What are the other 24 tattoos?
Well, I'm not going to lie. I have at least like 6 Dave Matthews tattoos.
You have 6 Dave Matthews tattoos.
I was a pretentious little thing when I was like 18. So I have like the last line of The Great Gatsby. I have that like big long quote from Jack Kerouac on my back that is very, very illegible after 20 years.
Wait, which Kerouac quote?
Oh, do you want me to do my party trick and recite it?
Yeah, sure.
So when I was a bartender, I would wear tank tops and people would ask me what it said, and I would literally make them. I worked at a cash bar, and I would literally make them tip me $1 to do this. And I'm pretty sure I paid for the tattoo that way. And I might run out of breath or forget the words because I have had it on my back for like 20 years. So the only people for me are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. And in the middle, the blue center light pops and everybody says, aw.
I thought it was going to be that
Oh,
one.
that's a mouthful.
A lot of people would end it after the only people for me are the mad ones. You went the full.
Listen, I told you I was pretentious.
I love it.
I'm not pretentious anymore. I am chill as a cucumber. But
you're
like,
covered in
I don't know.
You're covered in Dave Matthews Band and Kerouac quote tattoos.
I am. Well, I do have a kidney bean, so I have a little kidney bean to represent my my kidney donation, and I have. So it's so funny. I said that there's a girl who donated the same day as me, had a very similar story. So I talked this girl who at the time was 23 years old and had no clue who the Dave Matthews Band was, into getting the Dave Matthews tattoo, which I think is super, cool of me to make her do that. I don't know. Listen, she did it of her own volition.
She got into the band afterwards?
No, she literally just got a tattoo of Dave Matthews lyrics. She's
You're
probably never
convincing
even heard of them.
non-Dave Matthews fans to get Dave Matthews Band tattoos? It's nice you gave the kidney, but that's evil. That's your evil side.
Yes, it totally is. So there is a song by Dave Matthews called You Might Die Trying. And it was my tongue-in-cheek, because it's all about, like, you know, the first two lines, which are what I have tattooed, is to change the world, start with one step. And so it's basically, you know, you might die trying to do good in this world, but you should do it anyway. And so I did talk this girl into getting the tattoo with me, because I was like, it was my tongue-in-cheek song, right? Like, I might literally die trying to do this good thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that is one of my tattoos. I don't know. I have a lot. I have a couple of really, really dumb ones, though. Like, real dumb. But I was young and they're on my back and I can't see them. So it's totally okay.
I would love to make fun of your
Right?
pretentious tattoos, but I mean, I have Morrissey lyrics tattooed on myself, so I
I
can't.
mean, I don't hate that.
You don't. Many people do. Many people do.
I feel like I've been dreaming about Morrissey recently, rather.
I have his lyric. First of all, I have his actual signature. He signed me. I have that tattooed on my shoulder. And then on my bicep, I have one of his lyrics, which is, "It takes strength to be gentle and kind."
See, that's beautiful. And that's not pretentious. You're not putting, like,
It's
American classics on you.
It's pretty pretentious. Morrissey lyric. I did think about Kerouac at one point.
My really, really terrible confession is that I did not finish On the Road, which makes it so much worse that I have that.
You've never
tattooed on me.
finished the book, but you have that
No, I never
quote?
finished it.
It's
I told you I was pretentious.
It's a pretty quick read. Isn't that also from the last page?
No. In what world is that an easy read? Like, it's a single scroll. He's insane. Like,
Yeah, but it's mostly him being like, and then I drove to Denver, and then we drove down to New Orleans, and we did drugs with the guy who's supposed to be William S. Burroughs or whoever. I'm probably messing that up.
Maybe
and then
in my late
we met up with the
30s,
guy who's supposed to
I
be
can read
Allen
it.
Ginsberg. But wait, isn't that the literal last quote? No, the last quote is the one about looking for old Dean Moriarty in Denver.
Yeah, this was like at the beginning. The last quote of The Great Gatsby I do have on me, which is, "We beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past."
Wow.
Which people often ask me about, and then I'll just say it's the last quote of The Great Gatsby, and they go, "Oh," and they walk away.
Yeah.
But again, I got hold of those when I was 19, so please don't judge me, guys. Yeah, I've never read the book. I should try as an adult. I don't think I've seen the movie. Like, I'm just awful. I was such a little poser. I think, like, my best friend in college liked it, and she was like, "I love this quote," and then I went and got it tattooed on me.
Have you read any of On the Road?
I read, like, the first couple chapters, and then I put it down. Like, I got to the quote.
That quote must take up your whole back.
So I will say it goes shoulder to shoulder. So it's written, like, left to right. And it goes down to, like, I don't know, like 6 inches. It's like it like looks as though it's typed across my back.
6
It's real
inches
cool. It's a
of
really
your back
cool
is taken
tattoo.
by a quote. You've had years to just read the book.
I feel like you're judging me. I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm not judging at all. I'm just
honestly,
totally
To
baffled.
be clear, you should be judging me. Like, that
No,
is
I
really
promise you-
stupid of me.
It's not judgment. I can honestly say, and this is a bold thing to say, 8 years of having conversations where the large majority of them blow my mind on one level or another, and hearing that you have a quote that takes up that much of your back and you haven't just committed to reading the book is one of the most baffled moments in the history of my experience hosting Beautiful Anonymous. Now, I'm sure there's other people who disagree. I can say for me, that's amazing. That's so hilarious that you've only read a little bit of the book. That
I
is
feel
so
special
funny.
that I could baffle you to that level with my stupidity.
Kudos to you. Also, I have to say, there's a bit of a May 23rd thing in there too, because I also enjoy doing ridiculous things for the sake of it sometimes, and then proudly flaunting my own ridiculousness.
Yes.
And I feel like you are cut from that cloth as well.
And also, like, so, and then it goes further, right? Like, I'll do anything once. And I think that, like, maybe getting that ridiculously big tattoo is one of the, like, I'll do a dumb thing once. Like, I have plenty of tattoos, but that one is really, you can't see me and not see it, right, in the summer. So, yeah. Like I said, I probably literally paid for the tattoo just by asking people for $1 when they asked me about it.
I love that.
But, yeah, we'll also try anything once, like donating a kidney. You know, it didn't kill me.
You can't do it twice.
Give another one, I totally
can't do that one twice, just so everybody knows.
Do it twice.
Can't do that one twice.
But just so everybody knows, you'd be dead.
Now, caller,
well, you can do it twice, right? You can do it when after you die. Like, I'm going to do it again.
Ooh, good call. Now, caller, I'm going to pause you, though, because our time is up. But the good news is we now have a system in place where we say goodbye to the people listening for free. And the people who have joined up at beautifulanonymous.com, they get to keep listening as you finish out those thoughts, and we close any loops we'd like. And then I ask you 5 questions from a list that our fan base has generated. And I would love to do that with you.
I'm so excited to play 5 questions.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And I have seen people start to express in some internet feedback of like, man, should I sign up for this thing? I'm starting to have FOMO. And I will just say, if you're a supporter of the show, you are missing out on some good stuff back there. And I never push it too hard, but I also tried to make it, especially if you buy the annual, we keep it, I think, very reasonable for the amount of stuff you get for it. So for anybody who's interested, it's at beautifulanonymous.com. We're going to continue hearing more from this progressively revealing herself to be more and more ridiculous caller. But I also just want to close out by saying, caller, for everybody on the free feed, I want to echo what you said earlier, which is there is something community driven you can be doing. There's something altruistic you can be doing. And it's not about trying to be a hero. It's just, it makes you feel good and it makes you feel like you've done your part. So I wanted to underline that because I thought it was such a beautiful sentiment.
Thank you.
Caller, thank you so much, both for being on the show and telling us all your story, and also, honestly, for donating a kidney. It's the thing you made it sound sort of simpler than it is, and I think a lot of us sit here and go, there's so many reasons to be nervous about doing it. So on behalf of, not just the person who got yours or those 10 people from that chain reaction, but just all of us in society who know fundamentally that that's a good thing to do, thanks. It's cool of you. Thanks so much to everybody who listens to the show and enjoys it. Thanks to everybody who has signed up at beautifulanonymous.com for our bonus content. Thank you to our producer, Andrea Quinn, the high priestess of Beautiful Anonymous. Thank you so much to Shell Shag for our theme music. And hey, if you want to know about me, including live dates when I'm on the road, chrisgeth.com generally has all those answers. If you want to leave a voicemail, maybe you've been trying to call the show and you can't get through. Maybe we record at times that aren't convenient for you. Maybe you feel like you are from a community that's not represented on the show. We always want to hear from you. Our voicemail line is 973-306-4676. Let us know your story. We'll be in touch. And remember, another resource to get all your Beautiful Anonymous news, including when we're taping, including what we're up to, where the live shows are. Follow us on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. You can always join our Facebook group, which is Beautiful Anonymous, the community. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions.
Now my brain is just like on all the cool ways, or it's just thinking about all of the cool ways I could die. Like, I want to go out like a trooper, man. Like, so I, like you, am a wrestling fan, maybe not like as intently, but like I've always been like, I think I missed my calling as a professional wrestler, which I am not fit at all. I could not be a professional wrestler, but I like to think in my brain that I could be. But like, imagine just maybe I just take a really good bump. Like, boom, she's out of the ring, she's dead. Like, cool, done. Like, I don't know. That'd be a cool way for me to die.
Who are your favorite wrestlers? We got to talk about this. People barely ever bring up wrestling on this show. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.